Assalamu alaikum friends, welcome to lecture 20 of SBL. Today we are going to cover cloud, mobile and smart technology. So this is from your section E of the syllabus, which is your technology and data analytics. We are going to cover all relating to technology, data analytics, cyber issues, security issues, how to use technology ethically and things. Okay. So let's start. In this, we are going to cover two areas. One is advantages and disadvantages of cloud computing and the software solutions. Why we have to go for the cloud providers rather than having your own software, or how to build up softwares. The issues. So cloud and mobile computing is something which is based on internet. Okay, computing which is based on internet. Okay, we all know what a cloud is. Okay, cloud apps, cloud computing is. I'm sure everyone knows. So this does not need a detailed description or explanation. I can just briefly go through it. And this is very short lecture, by the way. Okay. Then it avoids the need for software, applications, server and services stored on a physical computer. You no longer need to have a software in your physical computer, neither server, neither any application, no services. All this will be given to you by the cloud service providers. There are some service providers which operate on the cloud through the net. Okay. And why are we studying this cloud computing? Because this is increasing at very high pace. Okay. And instead it stores this with cloud service providers who store these things on the internet and grant access to authorized user. If you have an access to it, you can authorize it from anywhere, anytime. It's available 24/7. Imagine if it was stored on physical computers. There are some certain times you can go, you have to open up, you have to see. Maybe the physical computers are located somewhere else. You might be somewhere else. So it's hard to have access to it anytime, anywhere, right? But having it on a cloud, from anywhere, any device, whether it's on a mobile or laptop or tab, anywhere you can have an access anytime. Okay. Next, so these are some benefits. Okay, mostly in cloud computing, uh, you have to know the benefits and the risk. That's what they ask, and mostly the format that they ask in SBL is a what do I say? In a presentation slide. Okay, you might have to give it in terms of bullet, and then you might have to explain. Maybe 3 to 4 is enough, more than enough. But anyway, let's know the full list of the benefits of cloud computing. Number one is you can store a huge amount of data. Sorry, you can share data. Okay, share to anyone, anytime. Second, on-demand self-service. Rather than consuming all the resources which you don't need, if you demand, you will get the service. It's a self-service and it's on demand, which reduces cost also drastically, which consumes less energy, less resources are wasted. Third, flexibility. It's very flexible. Okay, collaboration. You can collaborate with anyone, anytime, from anywhere. So these are self-explanatory. Okay, more competitive, easier scaling. If it was on a physical, you cannot scale. Okay, if the volume increases so much, you cannot scale it easily. But cloud computing gives you that option that you can scale up very easily. Maintenance are reduced because it is given to the cloud service provider. Backups, it keeps the backups. Disaster, easily when disasters occur, you can easily have a disaster recovery. Look at the Google photos and all. If you want, if you think that you have lost anything, any pictures or all you might have deleted mistakenly, if you have already uploaded in your Google photo, it will be there. Okay, this is just a small example. Even for your organization things and all, it works as a disaster recovery, and better securities are there. Okay, coming to the risk, there are three risks. One is reliance on the service provider, because you are entirely relying on that service provider. If it gives you a bad quality service, it's affecting you. Second, regulatory risk. Are they following the rules and regulations of data, because they are managing a huge amount of data? And third, unauthorized access of business and customer data. Because it is given to the service provider, they might have an unauthorized access to the personal information, confidential data. Data is in the hands of them now, it's no more secure. So these are the three risks. Then we are moving on to the software solutions from it. Okay, so cloud computing is not so much just risk and benefits, and software solutions are to make IT a success. Even more than the hardware, what is important is software. That's why we're talking about software, not hardware. It does not mean hardware is not important. It is important because software works on hardware. but choosing the correct software is essential. Okay, and when you're buying a new software, these are the areas that one needs to consider. There are 4 areas. One, what do we need the software to do? Do we need it to detect something? Do we need it to run some what do we need it to do it exactly? Second, you have to decide whether you need a generic type of software or bespoke. Bespoke is since it's a customized, specially made for you, which will not be available in other industry or in any other firm. Third, choosing a supplier of our chosen solution. You have to choose a supplier basically who's going to give you the software. You have to choose. Fourth, you have to implement after you have chosen that software solution. These are the 4 stages. Okay, now how do you establish business needs? So this is the first stage. What you need the software to do. So to know that, you have to have some techniques of knowing it. What do you want the software to do? There are various techniques. Whether it is suited or not, we'll see whether that technique is suitable or not. First technique is you can interview people. Okay, it is suitable? Yes, because this is a standard technique. For more scenarios, we go by interview. Second, written questions. You can ask questions. What do you want the software to do? And you can test on people. Okay, what the response and all. But where people are not available for interview, then you better go for written questions. Where people are available for interview, it's interviews are always the best. They are always preferred over the written questions because you can see their verbal expressions, right? Written questions, some things might not be very clear from written questions. Third is questionnaires. Next, how suitable it is. Where user population is too large that you cannot interview or you cannot personally ask them questions, do a questionnaire. Second, it is unsuitable especially because of superficial nature of questions and lack of interaction. You are not interacting personally. And also questions, mostly questionnaires are like multiple choice questions or tick one correct answer or small written questions, close-ended questions. So this through these things you cannot identify the major stuff. You cannot. Observation. This is useful if carried out before interview. Before the interview, you observe. And document analysis of existing process. You see how the existing process is working. Do an analysis of it. This is a very good source because you know through this you know what should be the design and the analysis material. Next technique is workshops. This is suitable where you are trying to resolve some types of conflict and also where the new processes are high uncertainty is there for the new process, new software. Workshops are best because in workshops all the industry experts come together and they talk how to resolve the issues, how to overcome the uncertainty, things like that. Protocol analysis could be done. Protocol analysis means it's a mixture of interview and observation. Here, you ensure all aspects of process are considered and you're not taking anything for granted. And final stage is prototyping. That means requirements are very unclear and help users reassess their desired functionality. So these are the things. Second, bespoke versus general. Okay, so what are the advantages of having these generic software solutions? Advantages and disadvantages. Advantages is it is cheaper than bespoke because it is given to everyone, so it should be cheaper. Next is it is available almost immediately. Once you want it, immediately you will get it because there are so many suppliers providing it to too many organizations. But disadvantages are it do not fit exactly to your organization needs. You might have to make some compromise. Second, organizations dependent on an outside supplier which is not given to the inside supplier. So even the maintenance of the software, you have to rely on the outside supplier. And sometimes these software suppliers are larger than the customers also. So because they are larger, you cannot influence the supply. Suppliers are going to have an influence over you in terms of price that they charge, in terms of maintenance that they are going to give. And if the relationship breaks with the supplier, you cannot even have this thing, right? Then any system bugs should have been discovered by the vendors before sale, yes. Because they have been giving it not just to you. It has been tested many times. So you know what are the bugs. Bugs are like some issues and all. Okay. Second, good packages are likely to come with good training programs also. and excellent documentation is there. On-screen help facilities are there. Third, updated versions. You will get updated versions on a regular basis. Disadvantages are that different packages used by the organizations, so they might be having incompatible data structure. Packages should go with your data structure, no? It might be incompatible. You are having different data structure. Packages that you are getting are different. Using the same package as rival organization. Because this is generic. So when you're using the same package as what the rival is it going to give you any information like opportunity of using that information system? Like, is it going to give you a competitive advantage over your rivals? No, they're also using the same software. You are also using the same software. Then experience of advantages, okay? Experience of great number of users. So you have an experience of great number of users. It's just not one or two industry that is using that software. So they have similar needs if you see. So when you're designing the package, the software package, it can design it in such a way that it feeds the mass need of people because they're similar. It has been tested. And also different packages will be available for different operating system. So when you want to have different packages, it will be available for different operating system also. Easy to use it also. Disadvantages. So no longer. Okay, no longer disadvantages are there. Next, choosing software. The third. Sorry, it's not the third, it's still be in the second one. Third one is choosing the vendor. So where the software will match, when you're choosing software, you have to take care of these things. Number one, whether the software will match the expected organizational user requirements. If it does not, then what's the use of having that software? Second, it should be flexible enough that it can easily adapt as your requirement changes. Third, competences. The one who are using it should have the competences of using the software. They should know how to use it, exploit it. Future update has to be available for that. And also you have to have maintenance and ongoing support. Compatibility with existing hardware and software. Okay, it has to be compatible, otherwise no use of having the software with the existing hardware and software. You have to be given training as well as the user manuals and online help. Interference design has to be user friendliness. That means anyone wants, it should be very user friendliness. They should not find it very difficult to navigate from one page to another page. Okay, cost. Yes, definitely cost has to be taken into account. You have to see whether the cost is worth it or not, or is it too expensive. And also the ease of implementation. Is it easy to implement or transfer, or is it very difficult? And security and control of that software. Now, third is choosing a supplier. So when you're choosing a supplier, few things you have to take care of. Number one, long-term viability. Are you going to have long-term viability with that? How do you know it? You go and check their financial records, their past financial records and position, to know that they are viable, they are going to be long-term viable supplier to you. It's very important because your success depends on your supplier, remember, especially in the software industry, the one who is going to provide you with the software package. If they're not viable, you cannot operate. Second, length of the time in the business. How long have they been in the business, the supplier? Longer the time they are, that means they're established, they have been surviving for a long time, means they're good enough. Reference, you go and check from the previous customers what is their reference, how good or bad the services that they give, the maintenance that they provide. Ethical standard, very important. Are they ethical? Availability of demonstrations, they should be able to demonstrate. The list is not over yet. The ability to provide guarantees and warranties for non-compliance. If they are not able to comply, they should be able to give you guarantees as well as warranties. Okay, for example, late delivery or failure to meet some functional or non-functional requirements, they have to give guarantee and warranty. Security and control, they should have security and they should be having the control. Copyright, especially for the bespoke solutions, do they have the copyright? User base, you check what is the user base, how many people are using it, your software. This comes for generic solutions. For bespoke solutions, customize it will not come because customize is one-to-one, is personal. Maintenance and after sales support, are they giving that? Then comes the last stage, that is implementation, where you actually implement. So there are three ways or three elements which is involved when you are implementing this software solution. Number one, data migration. You have to migrate your data from old system to a new system. Second, you train your staff to use the new system. And third is changeover. You introduce this new system to the business operation. You start operating it. So this is how you implement. Transfer data from old to new. Train your staff to use the new system. Third, introduce the new system to the organization. Then, data migration. There are stages of doing data migration. Like plan. You first need to have a plan. No organization works without planning, especially when there is a change in the software. Proper planning is required. It's not just you just keep on migrating. Second, data mapping. What needs to go where? What needs to be deleted? What needs to be amended? What needs to be added? Manual input. You manually might have to input from this system to here, the system to here, through keyboard or scanner or anything. Testing the solution. It's not just you started going live with the software. You first have to test the solution with some test, whether it's actually working or not, with some dummy variables or something. And then you implement the solution. Okay, so training. The second is training. Who needs to be trained and why? Okay. Second, whether training takes place on or off the job. On the job means while you are working, you are doing it. Like it's like teachers. You might tell them, okay, teach something, and maybe some mentors or other experienced teacher might be looking after you while you are doing it in a school or a college or something. So that is known as on the job training. Off the job training means from the job you go to some other place and get the training. Who will provide the training? Very important. Is the person who is providing you the training, is he himself experienced? If training should occur in the short period or it will be ongoing, what the line management involvement will be. So all these things issues are there. Methods of training. Okay, see, methods of training differs at what stage you are. Okay, because it should match with the level of the experience of the user. Some might have very vast experience, some might have very limited, some are beginner. So according to that you have to give them the type of training. For example, if there is an inexperienced user, okay, you should not help them with a manual. Okay, it would not help an inexperienced user to be presented with a manual. You cannot give them manual, they will not understand. For an inexperienced user, you rather have to give them first hand information. Maybe you have to give them a course so that they accept the new system. Then external courses are there, internal courses are there. External courses means what? Users go to the provider's premises to obtain the knowledge. Internal courses, organization runs these courses in-house. Okay. Then third is computer-based training. Staff may be trained using a software tutorial. Okay. This often might be supplied with the original software purchase. And tutorial can quickly be updated also, installed on your PC. Okay. You don't have to memorize this so much. Okay, because so much of your SBL questions are not on this area. Basically, you just have to know. In case a question comes on an IT firm, you should be able to know these things. Okay. Then changeover techniques. So this is the last before we do a question. There is only one test in understanding. Change over techniques. How do you change? There are three ways you can change. One is parallel running. Parallel running means you are running your old system also, you are running the new system also. So you to see whether there is any lapses or any so much of variations or things like that, or whether the new system is giving an improved result over the old or not. Till you are not familiar with the new system entirely, it's very risky just to run the new system and completely trash the old system. Rather keep it also going, you're going in the same line. Okay, once you get familiar with the new system, you can then stop using the old system. So that is known as parallel running. Parallelly you are running both. Okay, it is costly but risk is less. Second is direct changeover. You directly change to the new system, you are not using the old system. This is very risky. Less cost is there, but it's very risky. And third is phased. You come to the new system in phases, stages, not initially at one step. You don't take one big step. First you're using small, then you're using a little bit, stages by stages you are proceeding. That is known as phase. That's why it's known as phased. In phases you are going, adopting the system. So that's it for this lecture. Let us do one test understanding before we summarize everything. Test your understanding 6. Okay, so in this, the scenario is that you have to implement a payroll system for weekly paid employees. Okay, and here you have used a bought-in package. There are around 3,000 records, one for each employee. Currently, they are in the manual system. So what they want to do is they want to transfer from manual to computer system. Okay, and in each card of the employee, things, information like this are there, like employee details such as personal number, name, date of birth, grade, section, their rate of pay, their allowance, or their deductions from pay. This is for every employee. Okay, and then they have some line entries in the bottom of the card which says regarding the week. Okay, so there details like gross pay, tax, and national insurance are there at each week. Okay, then what are you supposed to do here? Number one, when you're transferring data from manual to computer system, okay, you have to describe the procedure, basically how you're going to do that. Okay, before going live in the new system, how are you going to create a master file in the computer? Second, part B is you have to regarding the checks and the controls, that how the process is, the computer's master file, whether it is accurate, whether it is complete, whether it is up to date, and it is suitable for running the live system. So second one is about more like controls and checks. First one is the procedure itself, that you have to describe the conversion, the transferring data. Okay, here this question you need to think a little bit practical here. Your textbook knowledge will not help you here. Okay, especially in IT related stuff. Okay, so if you see A, okay, these things, if you see how many are there, 1 2 3, the procedure that they are describing, just think normally when you have to transfer, what are the procedure you are going to apply? If you have worked in any organization where you had to do this transfer, maybe you will be able to understand this better. But if you are if you have not any experience like that, it's okay. But just you can think, if you were in that situation, what you would have done. So let's assume there is only one input device, which is keyboard. Like through keyboard only you're doing this change. Okay, so first and foremost, it's the plan. You need to plan anything. Okay, so for this changeover you have to thoroughly plan each and every step. Without planning does not come anything else. Okay, which out of the three are you going to use, parallel, phased, or the changeover? Here you are going to go for a changeover, total changeover from the manual to this one, not phased, not parallel. Why parallel is not feasible here? See, after careful consideration, parallel is not feasible. Why? Because you have used a bought-in package. You see how you are looking to the case study? You have bought a bought-in package. That's a generic solutions, general software. Okay, so there is no risk. That means it has already been tried and tested and is free from bugs. So you don't have to run in parallel. You run in parallel where it's a, let's say, customized, where it is a bespoke solution, where it's a high risk that whether it will work or not, right? But this is a bought-in solution, already has been tested, tried, everything. So no need to work it in parallel. It's not feasible. It's costly. So you can go for a changeover. Okay, number one, you thoroughly plan the changeover. Number two, once the time has been chosen, that this is the time you're going to go for a changeover, what is the next? This goes in step by the way, because you're discussing a procedure. Whenever there's a procedure needs to be followed in the order of the sequence. Okay, make sure the sequence is followed. You cannot write the first second and the second first. Planning will not come at the end or in the between, it will be the first one. Second is time. After you have chosen the time, then what's, you first have to make sure that the data in the present system is accurate and up to date. Forget about the new system. In the present system, whether your data is in the manual system, whether the data is accurate and up to date or not, make sure. Okay, and any dead records has to be removed. Dead record means maybe some of the employees went, they are not no longer any more employees. Make sure they are not there in the system. Third, records will be in continuous use. It's not that 1 year you're using it, right? Every year you're using these records. Then how do you do this? For the continuous use record, what do you do? Enter it in batches. Okay? Or you might even photocopy all the cards and enter onto the system. That also you can do. Fourth, includes our static data. What is static data? Static data is something which does not change. For example, your blood group, your gender, your personal number. This things does not change. No matter what, how many years you're working, this remains the same. Your date of birth, this remains the same. So these are known as static data. Data will which will not change. So what can you do? Like your name. Will your name change? No. Address, rarely it changes, but okay, not frequently you are changing your address, right? Personal record number. This will not change. Their static data. So how do you do that? You have a separate file for it, known as personal static file for each employee. Okay, a record has to be created for it. Then coming to the next is, once this static data has been entered, what do? You enter the variable data, information which keeps changing. Then it's very easy for you to just update. Okay. Then the next is, once you have transferred the data to the computer, you have to test. Using test data, you have to test it, whether the system is working correctly or not. Then hard copies of records will be printed and given to the employee so that they can verify their record. Obviously, you cannot give them in the system, you cannot tell them, okay, come and check whether it is correct or not. You have to print out and you have to give to the employee and make sure whether it is correct or not, the records. And also whether it complies with data protection legislation, whether personal information has been leaked out or some information which needs to be hidden, has it been given which you don't want to disclose, so things like that. And the last one is amendments. See, amendments will be necessary from time to time. Okay, no record stays the same forever, but the system has to be in such a way that it makes changes. What are the changes? Could be things like tax table. Tax changes every year. Your national insurance rate changes. So these things, you make sure that they are amended. Okay, that means you should have a standard program in the package so that this amendments automatically takes place. So these are the 8 procedure. Now going to part B, controls. How are you going to control whether it is accurate, up to date, and complete? Okay, so these are few steps. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. Obviously, you should not know all the 7 steps, but make sure at least you know few of them in your answer if you are asked a similar question. First, before you check whether your new system is correct or not, whatever the controls you are doing on your existing manual system to check whether it is completed accurate, same you use it for the new system also. Second, total number of records, have a control over this, and also the values that are imposed on certain key fields. Okay, and how are you going to control the data entry? By batch register. If you do this, you are sure that all records has been entered. Third, you have to validate the data. When you're importing data, make sure it has to reject some kind of data. For example, in a you have a personal ID number, right? Let's say it's 8 digit for all employees. So if you enter 7 digit or 9 digit, it will say it's invalid. It will not recognize it. It will not let you enter that. So that is known as you are validating the data. It could be range, maybe it's not within that range, or maybe the length, or maybe the type. It is a number and you're writing it in text. Maybe it is a text and a number, so it depends. So that's how you check whether your input is correct or not. Then make sure any rejected records are strictly taken care of. Then if there are any changes to the manual system before the conversion takes place, you have to make a note and record of it. Because if your manual changes, first you have to go and work with the manual system before you check the new system is working or not. Then a check should be made. A check should be made by record once the data has been entered. Once the data has been entered, you have to compare this with the manual record. Compare one by one. That you have to check. And finally, a full test run has to be done before it comes on live. To check 2 things. One, whether the system is working accurately or not. The other one is operator's accuracy. You as an operator, are you working it correctly or not? Able to work it or not? So that's it for this. This is the only question we have in this lecture. Now let us summarize what we have discussed in this lecture. So we started with advantages and disadvantages of cloud computing. Some advantages like flexibility, scalability, security, uh, anytime you can access risk, security risk, reliance on the provider, then software solutions, the four stages that we first go. We see what the software needs through questionnaire, interviews. Then we decide between general or bespoke solutions. They have their own advantages and disadvantages. Okay. Choosing supplier of our chosen solution. Okay, we choose a supplier based on so many things, whether they have long-term viability, whether they are financially secure, whether they give the after-sale service, they maintain. Then implement the software solution. How do you implement? You can implement it in a total direct changeover or in phases or parallel running. You run your old system versus new system. So that's it, and thank you for watching and see you in the next lecture.